Hey, this is Matt Cox, and we're going to be going over flipping houses today. I've gotten a lot of guys in the comments that have asked me, like, hey, do something on flipping houses or on, fix up housing and selling them and that sort of thing. So before we get into all that, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, like the video, share the video, that helps me out, and leave a comment for the algorithm. I love it. I have these guys that will actually say, leaving a comment for the algorithm. I don't care, bro. I'll respond to it. It helps. I should probably name this video like Con Man's Guide to, flipping property, or Con Man's Guide to rehabs, or rehab hack, or house or flipping hack. I don't know. The point is I'm going to go over some basics, and I'm going to use the value of $100,000. I understand that in your area, even the bad areas, most likely the houses are not selling for $100,000, or they're selling for $200,000 or $300,000, $400,000. And that's the same scenario in the areas that I'm at. They're selling for $200,000, $300,000. But I'm going to use $100,000 because the math is easier that way. So please do me a favor and don't leave a bunch of comments that say, well, you can't buy a house for 30 grand. What are you doing? Stop, okay? Use your head. Do me a favor, right? Don't be a jerk. So what you're looking for is you're looking for an area that is basically lower middle class, all right? Most of my experiences in flipping properties in areas that are lower middle class. And the reason is they're typically not as picky. You don't have to worry about home inspections and a whole bunch of other things. You have to worry about an appraiser, but a home inspection and an appraisal are two different things. You're looking for an area where the average price is, let's say, $100,000 or $200,000, whatever your basic area is. So if in general your city houses are selling for $150,000, then $100,000 area is below that. So you're looking for an area that's just below the average middle class home. Now in Tampa, that area would be, there's tons of areas. There's Sulphur Springs, there's all kinds of areas. But the area that I primarily flipped houses in was Ybor City and Tampa Heights area. I think it was a good area because you could buy houses for 30 or 40 grand. And you could put 20 grand into it and they would appraise it $100,000. And that's really exactly what you're looking for. And I'm going to explain why. So you're looking for an area, you're going to go into an area, you're going to try and find an area where the average home is a $100,000 sale. You're going to try and buy homes at 40% of that value. So for 40 grand. And a property that only needs roughly 20% in renovation. So it needs about 50% based on the sale of 40,000, 50%, or basically 20% of the whole of the market value. So you're looking at maybe you're buying it for 40, you're fixing it up for, let's say, 20, 25,000. And you can sell it for 100,000. And that 100,000 is misleading, by the way, because obviously there's closing costs and different things involved in there. So you're not walking away with 30 or 40. You're not walking away with 40 grand on that 30 or 40 grand on that in that particular scenario. But close. You could be close to that. The way to determine the value of that area is to contact a local realtor and ask them to do a market analysis, right? So you're going to say, look, I'm an investor and I want to start buying houses in this general area, and I found a couple of houses that I'd like to buy and maybe flip, but I need to know what is the value of this home going to be once I renovate it. So what's the after renovation value of that home? And they'll look up other houses in the area, and they'll come back and they'll say, oh, it should sell for around 100,000 or 110,000. You go, okay, great. Then you also might want to call a local appraiser and give him the same information. This is where, now they may charge you $100, but it's better to pay $100 because they're not going out to the property. They're not doing what's called a drive-by. They're just doing a basic desktop evaluation of the home. They're not printing up anything. So they might charge you $50 or $100. So, and the other thing you need to tell these guys is, look, once I find the house, I'm going to order an appraisal from you. Now that's not an appraisal for the bank. It's just for you. It's for you and to sell the house, and I'm going to explain that. So once you get an appraiser and you say, look, these are the 4 houses I'm thinking about buying. And he comes back and he says, okay, based on the square footage and the room count of that house, and the comparable sales, I believe that house, once it's renovated, will be worth 100,000, 95,000, whatever, 110,000, whatever that value comes out. And now you know. So now you turn around and you go to the whoever's selling the house, an investor, a homeowner, whoever's selling that house for 30 or 40 grand. You go to them and you say, look, I'll buy it for 40 grand. Maybe you try and get them down. Maybe they're asking 45 or 50, and maybe you get them down to 40,000. So let's say you get them down to $40,000. You get them down to 40,000, and you know that it's going to cost about 20 to 25,000 to renovate that property. All right. Now you're thinking, okay, so I'm going to renovate the property, and it's going to cost 25 grand. So let's say you don't have very much experience in construction. You're going to have to get a buddy or a contractor to go out to the house and give you an estimate of what it's going to cost to renovate that house. Hopefully, your partner or yourself actually have the ability to do renovations on homes yourself. And so you don't get ripped off, because a lot of times you'll get a general contract. You'll call a general contractor that's advertising, and he's charging 40 or 50% more than the average guy would charge. So hopefully you already know how to do the renovations, and you have a kind of a basic understanding, and that's going to help a lot, because you'd be shocked. There's going to be stuff that you're going to have to do. You're just not going to be able to find somebody to do a lot of little odds and ends, and you're going to end up having to do them. If you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I want to start flipping properties, but I really don't want to get my hands dirty, do something else. There are going to be times, I can't tell you how many times I've gone out and had to pick up glass in the yard, or pick up the construction debris, or clean out the gutters, or any number of these minor little things that you really can't pay someone to do. It's difficult to have someone come out and pick up glass in the front yard because they want to charge you $300 to do it. It's a 30-minute job. It's a 2-hour job. You're going to have to get out there on your hands and knees and pick up glass because maybe the windows have been knocked out. Who knows? I've done this. Or maybe there are minor drywall holes that you need to patch. You're probably going to have to patch those holes, because it's like you could patch them over the weekend in an hour or two, or you could hire somebody for $300 to patch a little tiny hole or two, because for them, it's a whole day's wait. It's wasted. The whole day is wasted. So you're probably going to have to do a lot of these little minor things yourself, and you just have to get used to that. Maybe it's even hanging blinds. You're going to have to figure out how to hang blinds. You don't want to pay someone to hang blinds. They're charging you $50 to hang $40 blinds. It's ridiculous. You're going to have to do it yourself. The other thing you need to look out for is this. What you don't want to do is think to yourself, well, I'm going to renovate this property and it's going to be so amazing that it's going to sell for more than the market value. Like, I know that the appraiser said that that area, basically the house is worth $100,000. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in granite countertops, and I'm going to put in these hardwood floors, and they're so amazing, and I'm going to put a pool in the backyard. So people, they'll pay $140,000. Well, for one thing, if you put a pool in the backyard and none of the comparable sales have pools, then you're not going to get any value for that pool. You literally might spend 20 grand to put in a pool, and they may give you a value of $1,000 or $2,000. There's no comparable sales. None of the other houses. So your house, you don't want your house to be at the top of the market. Because you can't do that. You're not going to get, if you put 20 grand into the pool and the house is worth 100,000, and you say, yeah, but I also have a $20,000 pool, they're going to go, okay, I'll give you a value of $102,000. You're not getting 120 because there's nothing to compare it to. The other thing is, if you put in granite countertop, that's something that makes the house more desirable, but you'll never get your money back out of it. If you spend $2,000 or $3,000 putting in granite countertops in the bathrooms and in the kitchen, you think, oh, well, that's going to make the house, worth $2,000 more money. It's not. It's like carpet. If you spend $5,000 to put in new carpet, or you spend $1,000 to put in new carpet, all that's going to be listed is flooring. Doesn't matter that you got the top grade flooring. You got flooring. That's it. Don't get crazy. Don't get emotionally attached. Don't start picturing yourself living in this house. That's a mistake. You want to go a neutral color on the outside of the house, the inside of the house, neutral carpet, neutral everything. I actually had a buddy of mine that had someone come by a house one time and say, oh my gosh, I love this house. I'm pre-qualified. I actually had a pre-qualification letter. Said, I love the house. Can you paint it green and yellow? And gave him $500 to paint the house that color. He painted this thing like green, the ugliest green and yellow ever. Costs a lot to paint a house. He painted the house. The people lost their deposit. They never closed on the house, and now he's got a green and yellow house. It was horrible. He had to repaint the house. And it was more than $500 to repaint the house. He had to do it himself. My point is, go neutral. They can paint the house themselves, or they can go somewhere else. There's always going to be a buyer. You don't want to get excited the first time somebody comes and looks at the house and you don't want to get overexcited and start making adjustments for them, unless you get a huge deposit down to where it's worth it that they don't end up buying the house. The other issue is this: you don't want to do anything to reduce the value of the house. Now, I've had an investor one time that bought a house that was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. It was originally a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, but they had converted the carport into a bedroom. So now it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I've actually had another investor do the same thing with a porch, where there was a porch that had been converted into a bedroom. Now the home at its current air-conditioned square footage was worth a couple $100,000. Instead, both of these investors went in. The one took the extra room and removed the extra room and turned it back into a porch. Now the other guy took the carport that was now an extra bedroom and turned it back into a carport. They just removed square footage on the house. And the value that they thought they were going to get, now when the appraiser came back out, the appraiser said, well, it's not worth $200,000. So they were like, both of them, what do you mean it's not worth $200,000? I don't understand. Why would you say that? And I don't know that it was 200. One was like 150. One was like 240 or something, whatever. In general, what you said it was going to be worth 200. It was when it was a 3-bedroom. It was when it had the extra bedroom and the extra square footage. But you've removed that. So now it's worth $20,000 or $15,000 or whatever it was. So both of these people actually spent several $1,000s. They spent $4,000 or $5,000 to convert these parts of the property back to what they were originally, a carport and a porch. So they spend money that ultimately costs them additional money on the appraisal because they didn't know what they were doing. Another issue, major issue. Landscaping is worth virtually nothing. All right. So if you say, I'm going to spend $2,500 on landscaping, I'm going to put new grass down, and I'm going to have dirt come in and pile dirt up. I'm going to put lights out there, and the whole yard's going to be lit up, and I'm going to, I know, I'm going to put a sprinkler system in, and I'm going to spend whatever, $2,500, $3,500, $4,500 on all of these special things in the yard. In a lower middle class neighborhood, you do not dump money into ridiculous things like that. It's a waste of your money. And on top of that, you'll never get that value. People that generally buy in lower middle class areas are not overly concerned with having their house lit up and the plants lit up and everything watered. You buy basic cheap grass, and that's all you buy. Don't bring in dirt. Don't do any landscaping. Don't do anything crazy. All right? It's a mistake, and you won't get any additional money on the appraisal. And the appraisal is what's important. I'm going to explain why later. Here's the other issue with buying a piece of property. Do you have the money to do it? If you're working a job at, I don't know, at Tire Kingdom or Walmart or whatever, and you're barely getting by, and you're thinking, I want to flip a property, and I think that's a way to, make some quick money. And if you have very little experience in doing any type of construction, and you have virtually no time, and you have almost no money to actually buy the property, it's probably not going to work unless you partner with somebody who's done it and has all of the system in place to buy and renovate properties. Now, why that person would need you, I don't know. But maybe it's your buddy and he wants to get you involved and try and have you shoulder some of the burden of flipping these properties, because flipping properties it's not an easy job. It looks great if you're watching one of these TV shows where they go in and they point and they have people doing stuff and they're buying houses for $400,000 and they're fixing them up for $100,000, and they're selling them for 800,000 and they make 200,000, and man, that almost never happens. And maybe you can get to that level. All right, maybe at some point you can get up there, and that's the goal, of course. But we're not doing that right now. We're talking about basics. I need some coffee is what I need. I really need some coffee. No, I'm not gonna get any coffee. I'm gonna finish this first. All right. Let's assume that you are the first time guy that's gonna renovate a house and you're determined to do it, and but you don't have the money. You've got some construction experience, or you've got some buddies that have construction experience. You feel you have the support group in place that's going to help you do this, and you know this is what you want to do. It's your passion. You love it. You can tell you have the confidence to do it, the experience, whatever. Okay, fine. Here's what you do. If you don't have the money, let's hope you have the credit. Now, I don't mean credit so that you can go to Bank of America and ask them to give you a loan to fix up this piece of garbage that you're about to buy. You're about to buy a crack shack, all right? So you're gonna buy a crack house and renovate it and then sell it in a lower middle class area. That has a level of difficulty that you don't really realize unless you've been through it. However, in this scenario, let's say you have decent credit. You're still not going to be able to go to Bank of America and convince them to lend you money on a house that has a leaky roof and there's holes in the drywall and 5 of the windows have been cooked out and the carpet is disgusting. Because here's what happens is Bank of America will send out their own appraiser, and they will look at the property and they will go through the property and they will come back and they will say, listen, I mean, this property, yeah, it's after repair value is worth 100 grand, but honestly, man, there's 30 or 40 grand worth of repairs, because he's not even going to give you like the lowball estimate that you could get it done for. He's going to go with just this massive estimate. He's probably not going to give you an estimate at all. He's probably just going to say, look, this guy's trying to buy the property for 40 grand and it needs all of these things. And then he's going to list new roof, new drywall, new windows, he's not going to take the time to get all into exactly what it needs and how much it's going to cost to do those renovations. You see the issue? So they're going to get an appraisal that says this is a piece of junk house and it needs a ton of work, and we don't even really know how much it's worth. And God forbid he actually tells you how much it's worth, or you actually give him an estimate of what it's worth. Now they're going to say, well, who's going to do this work? Is it a licensed general contractor? They're going to want the general contractor to qualify. That's a whole mess. They're going to want to escrow the funds. They're going to, listen, in the end, the bottom line is this. You're not getting the loan. That's what it boils down to. You can sit here and say, oh, I can get this and I can do that. And my buddy Tommy, he's a general contractor and he can do this and he can do that. You're not getting the loan. You have no experience doing this. You probably don't have solid enough credit. You probably don't have the amount of money that it takes for reserves in the bank. You're not getting a loan from Bank of America to do this house, okay? Now, I'm sure somebody will leave a note in the comments saying, my buddy Joey did. Well, okay, whatever. He may have got some FHA rehab loan, and it may have happened, but those loans are far and few in between, and they're a nightmare. And the truth is, it's probably not going to happen. Even if you have decent credit, because you also have to be able to qualify to carry whatever your current bills are, plus the bills of the future house. I mean, I don't know what kind of money you're making, but if you don't have a whole bunch of money already, something's up, you're not going to qualify. So here's my suggestion. You go to a hard money lender. Hard money lenders are designed to flip properties. That's what they do. They don't even want to give you a loan for 4 years or 10 years or 7 years. They want to lend you money for 3 or 4 months, because that's how they make their money. And they're designed to lend you 65% of the aftermarket value. Let's say you go the hard money route. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Matt, I don't know any hard money lenders. What am I going to do? Okay, well, let's say you're in Tampa. You go on the internet, you put in hard money lenders, and you put Tampa Bay area, and you're going to they have websites. They advertise. You start making phone calls. You give them the name of the address, or you just ask the basics. You say, look, I want to buy a house. I want to fix it up. I want to renovate it. I've got 3 or 4 houses I'm interested in buying. I don't specifically have the cash to buy this house for 40 grand. I'd like you to give me what's a rehab loan. And they're going to say, Okay, sure. Now they're probably going to say, do you have any experience doing this? So that's why I'm suggesting you partner with someone who does have experience doing it. But once again, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. Regardless, they're going to want to lend to somebody who's done this type of thing before, somebody who's bought houses, fixed them up, and sold them. How you're going to handle that, I don't know. All right. My whole thing is, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. But the first few houses I did with a guy that I knew that had actually flipped a couple other houses. It's not hard to partner with these guys. Even if you were to go and just hang out with them to see what the process is, at least then you would be able to say, I've done it before. Me and my buddy Tom did it. We flipped 2 properties. Look, there are rehabbers that are out there right now you could just go hang out with. They'd appreciate you hanging out with them just if you offered to help out, just to see how the process works. So you're on the phone with the hard money lender and you say, yeah, I've done a couple properties before. He says, great. Here's how they lend money. They're going to lend 65% of the after repair value of the home. So it's worth $100,000. They're going to lend you 65 grand. They'll lend you the $40,000 to buy the house and the $25,000 to fix it up. Now, every hard money lender is different. All right. Every single one of them has their own underwriting guidelines. They have their own lending strategy. They do what I'm going to give you is what about 70 to 80% of them do. Here's what they do. 65% value is what they're going to give you. So they're going to lend you $65,000 based on what the house is going to be worth once it's fixed up. So the first thing they're going to do is they're going to lend you $40,000 to buy the house. So that's 40 grand. So you can basically show up to closing with no money at all. So you show up, they send the money to the title company, you close. Maybe they ask you to pay the closing costs for this loan. It's going to be minor, less than $1,000. They may also ask you to pay 1 or 2 points. Those points are based off of the loan. So if they're lending you $65,000 and they're charging you 2 points, if they charge you 1 point, that point is going to be $650. If they're charging you 2 points, it's going to be $1,300. If they're charging 3 points, which I don't suggest you pay, then you're looking at $1,950. You get the basic understanding, right? 1 point is 1% of whatever they're lending you. So some of these lenders will say, okay, aftermarket value is $100,000. We're going to lend you $65,000, but we're also going to charge you 2 points. And you have to bring that to the closing. So you show up at closing with the closing costs and their 2 points. Sometimes, and if you ask them, they'll actually just add those 2 points onto the loan. Or they'll take those 2 points out of the loan. So let's say that they lend you the $40,000 and you bring the closing costs and they take the 2 points that they're supposed to get out of the remaining $25,000. Now, here's what you're thinking. The $25,000, they're going to lend me the money to renovate the house? Matt, that's amazing. It is amazing. It's a great deal, but they don't give you the 25 grand. They hold the $25,000 in escrow. So here's what they want you to do. They want you to give them a release, like a schedule, right? Like an escrow release schedule. Typically, they want it broken up into 3 parts. So if they're holding, let's say after closing costs and the points and everything else, for simplicity's sake, let's say they're holding $21,000 in their escrow account. They want you to try and break it up like this. You tell them, look, here's the release schedule. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the roof first, because obviously if it's leaking, you want to make sure that the roof's good. You want to make sure you want to do all your renovations the outside in, because you want to get the property secure as quick as possible. You don't want to be putting in new toilets and air conditioning units and the outside, and somebody can climb through the window and steal your stuff. So here's what you're doing. You say, okay, here's what I'm going to do, Mr. Hard Money Lender. You're holding the $21,000 in escrow. I'm going to need that money. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the new roof, and I'm going to paint the outside of the house, and I'm going to do all the windows or whatever. I'm going to secure it. I'm going to do these 2 windows because they're broken up, and I'm going to change the front door, and it's going to be perfect, and it'll be nice and secure. And that's going to run me about $7 grand. So I'm going to need you to release the $7,000 as soon as that work is done. Here's the issue. You've got to have $7,000 to get it done. If you don't have $7,000 to get done, you have a problem. Now, luckily, if you have good credit, you can probably go get a personal loan, and they'll give you whatever, $10, $11, $12, $13, $14,000. And now you've got a little bit of a cushion. You can get that work done with that $10,000 cushion. Or go to use your credit cards, or make a deal with the contractors that are going to do the work and ask them to wait for the hard money guy to release the money. And listen, a lot of these guys will say, oh man, I'll do it. Yeah, no problem, I'll do it. Here's what happens. As soon as they're done, these guys immediately are like, where's my money, man? Where's my money? Where's my money? They said they were going to wait for the release, which is going to be in 5 days or 10 days or however long it's going to be. But a lot of times they get crazy. They start, man, I need my money now. I need my money now. I mean, I'm done. I'm finished. So what I'm suggesting you do is whatever agreement you have with them, you write it down. You explain it very, very carefully in the agreement, because the last thing you want is some guy hounding you for money that he's already agreed to wait for. And they will hound you because you're basically dealing with scumbags when you're dealing with a bunch of guys that are fixing up properties and selling them. And if they're desperate for money like that, then there's already an issue. You don't have a 45, 50-year-old man who can't wait 5 days to get his $4,500 or $2,200 or whatever he charged you to replace all the windows in the door or the roof. If he's so broke that he's screaming at you to pay him $3,500 for the new roof when he already said he'd wait a week to get the money, then he's probably a real jerk anyway. What I'm trying to explain to you is that you need to be able to pull out that contract to say, whoa, bro, this is what you agreed to. All right. The other thing that you need to remember too is most of these guys will do this, and this will get you into a lot of trouble, by the way. This is a major problem. They say we'll be done. Let's say you're paying them up front or you're giving them some money. Let's say you say, okay, look, what you're going to do is $3,000. I'm going to give you $1,000 up front. And they say, well, listen, I got to have $1,000 up front. Okay, that's fine. I understand that. So you give them $1,000 up front. And they say they're going to be done by Thursday. Well, guess what? By Wednesday, they haven't even shown up yet. By Thursday, you're calling and they're not even returning your phone call. By Friday, they call and they go, oh, yeah, I had another job and this happened and that happened. I'm so sorry. We're starting on Tuesday. Now, let's assume that one, they don't take off with the money, which they probably won't. They probably will do the renovation, whatever they're doing, the new roof, whatever. But they will drag you. And that's what they do is they line up jobs and they start dragging people. So what I'm suggesting you do is when you write up your little contract, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be a lawyer to write up the contract. Just type it out. It can just be, contractor agrees to be done. I mean, you can listen. It can be, you could write it on a napkin, all right? But you need to make it clear that the contractor is saying he will be completely finished with the job by the date of Thursday. And that every day he's late, you're going to knock off whatever you want, $50 or $100 for every single day he's late off of the total. And you get him to agree. Now, it's not hard to get these guys to agree to that, because when they say, oh man, no, definitely, we're going to be done. Bro, I got you, man. I'm going to be done by Thursday. Trust me. I'm going to be done by, so you're positive you're going to be done by Thursday? Positive. No way I'm not going to be done by Thursday. Give me the grand. I'm going to get the stuff out. My boys are going to be here. We're going to be completely finished by Thursday. You're going to be totally happy. You can come on Friday morning. It's going to be done. I guarantee it. Well, then you should have no problem at all signing a contract that says I can knock off $100 a day for every day that you're not finished past Thursday. You'd be shocked how quickly these guys start backpedaling. Oh, I don't know about all that. I mean, what if something happens? Well, a minute ago, you were positive. There was no way it wasn't going to happen. Nothing was going to stop you. Jesus Christ couldn't have slowed you down. Stop, bro. When are you going to be done? Well, worst case Monday. Okay, great. You don't mind signing something that says every day past Monday. What I'm saying is these guys are liars and scumbags. Lock them in. You can always negotiate that $100 later. Like if they go 4 days over and it doesn't really affect you, and the guy, and you understand there's an issue and this happened and that happened, it's not his fault. Well, guess what? You can always negotiate, say, look, I'm not going to charge you that much money, or I'm not going to charge it all because it didn't affect me. No big deal. I understand you had this happen or that happen. And listen, don't think they won't lie to you. They'll lie. They'll say that their child is in the hospital, their wife left them, their family members are sick, their father had a heart attack. They'll tell you that they're going to the hospital. I've heard every excuse. I've heard excuses from guys that have said that they literally had a heart attack and they were in the hospital and wouldn't be able to, and weren't going to be released for a few days, and they were in the hospital. And then I was looking at another property that same day, and the guy was on the other job at the other property across town. They're scumbags. You understand? They're lying. I mean, I literally stopped, got out and went and looked at the guy. And when he saw me, he just kind of was like, he laughed. He was like, I'm sorry, man. I just got out. Yeah. He immediately started apologizing. But I mean, listen, I guarantee he'd said that 1,000 times. My point is, you have to make sure that these guys are on time, because if the person doing the roof is not finished, you cannot have the drywallers put in the drywall, because if it rains in the house and it ruins the new drywall or the new flooring. So you have to have the roof done, you have to have the house painted, you have to have the new windows and doors put in, and now the house is secure. And now you can go to the hard money lender. He's going to come out, he's going to look at all the things that you did, and he's going to say, hey, great job, here's your $7,000 check. And he's going to release $7,000 because it looks like $7,000 worth of work is done. These guys are not exactly, you're down to the penny. Like, you don't have to say, this cost me exactly this much and this much. And it was $1,122.17. And look, that's not what they're doing. They're saying, in general, they know the general cost of things. In general, it could be $100 off either way. All right, so you got your $7,000 back. If you put money up to front some of these investors or some of the work that was done, you now got that money back, right? So if you put up, for the $7,000 worth of work, you put up $4,000 or $3,000, or maybe you put up the whole $7,000. You just got your $7,000 back. So you can now go on to the next phase and get another $7,000 done. Now you can go in and you can have the kitchen done and the baseboards, and you can have the new bathroom put in. And guess what? That's $7,000 worth of work. You call the hard money lender. He comes back out. He walks through the house. He says, you know what? Yeah, it's definitely about $7,000 worth of work. You're doing great. Thank you. I appreciate it. I need $7,000. No problem. He signs another check to you for $7,000. All of this money is coming out of the escrow fund, which is $21,000. He's now giving you $7,000 and $7,000, $14,000. There's $7,000 left. Now you go ahead and you do the additional $7,000 worth of work. You paint the inside of the house. You put in the new tile, the new carpet or wood floors or whatever you're going to put in. You put in the blinds, you put in the lights, the new whatever lights that you're putting in, you do whatever you're going to do. And now you're complete. The property's done. He comes back out, he gives you the other $7,000. That's $21,000 total. $7,000, $7,000, $7,000, $21,000. You have to understand, the entire time that this is happening, you're having to pay a mortgage to this man. What that mortgage depends on whatever interest rate he's charged you. Most likely, he's going to charge you a simple interest rate of 12%. All right? It's not an amortized interest rate like a 30-year mortgage from the bank. This is a simple interest rate of 12%. So if he lends you $65,000, you have a payment of $650. No money is coming off the principal. It's $650 every single month while you're making that payment. Most likely, you're going to pay 3 payments because you should be able to buy the property, renovate the property, and sell the property within 3 to 4 months. So here's what he's doing. Based on an after repair value of $100,000, he's going to lend you $65,000. He's going to escrow $21,000. He's going to charge you 2 or 3 points on the front of the loan, which he's going to take out of that also. So he's already made $1,300 to $1,950. Okay, so let's say $1,300 plus there's some closing costs. Maybe he asks you to pay them. Maybe he takes them out of the actual escrow funds. I don't know. You have to work that out with him. You go to the closing, and now in 30 days, you now owe him a payment of $650 while you're doing the renovations, and then he's slowly cutting you those checks back out of the escrow for the renovations. That's typically how a hard money lender works. He's got a lien on the property. Once you sell the property, obviously he gets his $65,000 back. All right. Now, assuming I haven't messed up any of the numbers, let's move on. Here are things that you need to worry about while you're doing this renovation. One, this is not a great area, all right? Kids will throw rocks through windows. The other thing that will happen is people will steal your air conditioners. So your air conditioning units, you want to have those put in towards the end of the entire stage. You don't want to drop those things in right away and have them stolen. The other thing is you want to make sure that house is secure, all right? You don't want to buy any specialty windows or anything like that in case windows are broken. You want to get something extremely inexpensive that can be repaired easily. The other thing you might want to think about doing is getting insurance, and you can get insurance through, there's lots of different companies that will, like Lloyd's of London and all these types of renovation type, or these types of specialty insurance companies will actually lend you, it costs like $1,000 and you get like a year. They know that the policy's only going to need to span one quarter, like 4 months, or it's only going to need to span 3 or 4 months anyway. So if they charge $500 to $1,000, it's worth it to them. All right. Another thing you need to worry about is this, is that as you go through the process of renovating this property, you need to be trying to sell the property. Don't wait. Look, I know everybody's seen these TV shows where they're done and they bring in furniture, and they bring in beds and couches, and they clean it up, and they bake bread and make it smell good, and they have an open house. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about people that have, we're talking about a single mother, or a couple, an unmarried couple that has 2 or 3 kids that are not making $200,000. They don't have a household income of $100,000 or $200,000. They have a household income of maybe $50,000 or $60,000. They're trying to buy your $100,000 house that's been recently renovated. The way to do this, so that the quicker you sell the property and flip the property, the quicker you get your money and you move on to another property, the better the hard money lender feels about you and the less you owe him. So here's what I'm suggesting. Once you start the renovations, remember the appraiser that you spoke with, or the realtor? You have them do a market analysis, or you have the appraiser do an appraisal, which you're going to have to pay for. And you can explain to the appraiser that, look, whoever the buyers of this home are most likely not going to be able to use him because their bank's going to want to order their own appraisal. But having an appraisal done really helps you. So if you have that appraiser, if you give him a few $100s, he doesn't have to do an entire appraisal. He just has to give you a couple of pages showing where the other comparable sales are, what the square footage is, what the room counts are, and when those properties were sold and how recently, when they were built, the basics, and tell you why. He'll give you like a 2-page summary of why this property, after it's been renovated, is worth $105,000. And that's what you're asking. So he sends you that, you give him $100 or $150, and you print out those over and over and over again. You get yourself a stack, and you put a sign in the front yard that says home for sale, immediate occupancy, and you put down a date that you think you're going to be done by, or finished by. You put that out. You put it on Craigslist or whatever other real estate sales tool there is out there, and you start trying to sell that property immediately. Now, if someone comes along and they see it and they love it and they say it's amazing and I love it, oh my gosh, I want you to say, oh, absolutely, it's going to sell immediately. You're the 10th person to come by in the last 2 days, and they say, we want it, we want to put money down on it, great. You make sure you get a non-refundable deposit from them. Make them put down $1,000. And if they're like, oh, I don't know about 1,000, maybe 500, I'm not sure. Stop. Don't negotiate, okay? You don't have to be in a position to you don't have to negotiate with people, all right? It's $1,000 down. It's non-refundable. The property will be finished on the 3rd. You have 30 days from the 3rd to close. Make sure you get a pre-qualification letter from them. Make sure you speak with the broker or loan officer. See how secure he feels. Let him know what's going on. Let him know when the property is going to be renovated. Don't allow them to order an appraisal until that property is finished. Make sure you stay on the contractors. Make sure when the appraiser shows up, everything is done. There's no garbage in the front yard, all right? There's no pile of trash that you need somebody to clean up, because when he comes in there and he starts taking pictures and you say, oh yeah, I know there's that old carpet in the front yard, and I know this window isn't finished, but I'm gonna do all that. He's gonna go, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. He's gonna nod like, oh, okay, yeah, don't even worry about it. But you know what he's gonna do? He's gonna put it down on the appraisal, because he now gets to charge extra money to come back to make sure that stuff has been picked up by the garbage man or the trash hauler, and that window's been fixed, or whatever he puts down. Okay, he doesn't work for you. He's going to give an appraisal to the bank, and then the bank is going to say, look, I got the appraisal, but there's a whole bunch, he's got pictures, and he says there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not done. Guess what? Now they have to come back out, and somebody has to pay him, and that person is going to be you. Here's another thing about selling a piece of property. There's closing costs involved. You're dealing with people, when you go to sell a piece of property, you're dealing with people that don't have great credit. They have very little money to put down on the house. To get the loan that they're trying to get from the bank, they don't have a lot of money. And here's what I'm suggesting you do, is that as an incentive, you're selling the house at the top of the market value, right? You're selling it for, let's say, $105,000 or $100,000, whatever. These people are not in a great position to negotiate. But your negotiation tool is this. Your negotiation tool is, I will pay part of your closing costs. Like, I will give you $1,000 toward your closing costs. That's less money they have to come up with. So if their closing costs are going to be $2,000 or $1,000, and they're scraping together the 5%, the $5,000 they need to even show up, they now have to show up with $5,000, plus they have to show up with $2,000 for their closing costs, $7,000. Your negotiation is not to lower the price of the house, but to include the closing costs. Well, look, I'll give you $1,000 towards the purchase price of the home, will go towards your closing costs, or $2,000. You don't want to go more than 2%, 3% of the sales price of the home. The lender typically won't allow that. So that's not something you can't say, oh, I'll give you 5% towards your down payment. Okay, look, you're not making the rules, all right? They have to put 5% down or 10% down. That's not. You do have some wiggle room on what you can contribute towards their closing costs, but their closing costs are only so much. Another thing, you want to put in the refrigerator and range just before the appraiser gets there. You don't want to have it in there for, well, first of all, you don't want to have it in there for 3 weeks or 2 months anyway. It could get stolen, it could get damaged, or literally just before, it's one of the last things you do is put in the refrigerator and range. One of the other reasons that you don't want to lower the price of the home is this. You want to try and, if you're going to flip properties, you want to go into an area and stay in that one area. You don't necessarily want to go across town and back and forth, because what happens is, now some people do that, and sometimes you'll get such an amazing deal. Like, you're like, I can't not buy this house. I don't know this area very well, but the house is so cheap, I have to get it. The longer you flip properties, the more deals you're going to come across. You know, if you're looking for properties for 3 months, you're probably not going to come across a great deal. But if you're in the industry and you're someone who's known, and you flip properties and your buddies know you, and realtors know you, and hard money lenders know you, and people in the general area know you, people will start to bring you deals, and you'll get amazing deals. You're probably not going to get amazing deals like that starting off. I mean, I could tell you about deals that I got that you'd be like, that was a great deal. It was a great deal. But I'd also been flipping properties for 3 years. You know, I think what you need to focus on is the first property you're flipping, because the sooner you flip that property, the more comfortable you'll feel. The other issue is this. You want to, like I said, you want to stay in the same area for this specific reason. People get to know you in that area. You get to know the area. You know where the other comparable sales are, and you want to keep that all of your sales at the top of the market, because what you don't want to do is drive the comparable sales down. You want to drive them up. You want to drive them to the top of the market, specifically because every time you buy a property, renovate it, and sell it, those comparable sales are going to be used for your new property. So if somebody comes in and says, look, I'm going to give you cash right now. I'll give you 80 grand cash right now for this $100,000 piece of property. Then you say, no, I'm not going to take 80,000. It's going to ruin the area. It will be to my detriment at the next house that I flip. Keep it high. Tell them buy it for 100,000. I'll give you a credit. We'll pay the extra dock stamps. We'll do whatever it is. I don't want a sale for 80,000 because the next time you go to get an appraisal, it won't come in at 100 or 105. It'll come in at 92 or 85. Why? Because you took an 80,000. This $100,000 piece of property you sold for $80,000 because the guy had cash. It's just stupid. What I'm suggesting you do is make sure you keep your sale prices high and your negotiation within the sales price. All right? Give them an incentive. Pay closing costs. Buy an upgraded refrigerator. Do something that they want. Put in a hot tub. Give them a gift certificate. Something, but you keep that sales price high. All right. Here's the other thing you want to know. Flipping houses one at a time is really a way to just go broke. You're never going to flip a property it's never going to happen the way you think, all right? Bad things happen. I've never bought a property and the numbers worked out the way I thought. I bought it for 40. I thought I'd put in 20. I thought I was going to sell it and make $40,000. That's never happened. What typically happens is I buy it for 40. I then end up putting in 25 because things come up that you don't know about. And then the borrowers, they end up having problems. Like suddenly they lose their job just before closing and you have to start over from scratch, which means it costs me an extra $650 to maintain the hard money lender's loan. And I have to start the process over with a new borrower, or they keep, saying, oh, the loan got pushed back. Well, what you do is you just keep taking their $1,000. So if you want to extend the contract, that's fine. Don't ever extend the contract without additional money. Because they'll come to you and say, look, here's what happened. The loan's not going to close on Tuesday, and I know that my contract expires on Tuesday, but it's not my fault. It's not my fault either. So here's what we're going to do. Since you have $1,000 non-refundable deposit, give me another $1,000. Because you're so sure that it is going to close on Friday when it should have closed on Monday, well, then give me another $1,000. You've already lost your $1,000. If you're positive it's closing on Friday, give me another $1,000 or another $500. Make it worth your while to extend the contract. Don't just extend it because they said so. Don't extend it because the loan officer said so. If the loan officer was any good, it would have closed on Monday or Tuesday when it was supposed to close to begin with. You can't trust that guy. Trust me. You can't trust the loan officers. Or the realtors. They'll lie to you too. So I'm saying you're in control. You have the property. The contract expired. Get another deposit. If they're not forfeiting their $1,000 deposit and you want to let them keep the $1,000 deposit, up the deposit. Tell them, great, give me another $500. I'll give you till the end of the week. If they say, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, great, kick rocks. I'm going to sell the house to somebody else and I'm keeping your $1,000. Also, don't ever allow them to put the $1,000 into the title company. All right? Because now you have to deal with a title company that doesn't have any real allegiance to you at this point. They have an allegiance to the realtor or to the loan officer or broker or whoever you're going through. If this is your first flip, you certainly don't have any power in the situation. So make sure that they just give you the $1,000. Back to flipping one property at a time. Sorry, I kind of got off track there. Obviously, flipping one property at a time is a problem because things go wrong you just can't account for. You really can't go full-time renovating properties until you're in a position where you can renovate 4 properties at one time. All right? That's 4 at one time. So if you're thinking, oh, I can quit my job and start flipping properties, no, you can't. Not unless you can do 4 at a time. You need to do 1, and that's very possible, by the way. Using hard money lenders, it's extremely possible to flip 4, 5, 6 properties at one time. You may have to use multiple hard money lenders, but you can easily do it. What it all boils down to is doing your first one. If you can do 1, then you can end up doing 4 at a time. And guess what? The money will be good. But don't confuse flipping 4 properties at a time as you being some big shot. You're basically going to end up being like a general contractor or a site manager that works for a general contractor. You're basically going to be delivering materials, checking on subcontractors, arguing with subcontractors, holding money on people because they haven't finished. Another thing that happens all the time is the guys are almost done and they ask you to cut them a check right now, and you look around and you think, yeah, they're going to be done in like 2 hours, and you cut them the whole check. It's a mistake. It's happened to me over and over again. Don't ever cut anybody the entire amount until everything's done, including cleaning up their garbage. Hold money back. I owe you $4,000. Great. Here's a check for $3,500. Oh, you owe me $4,000. What's it? Well, yeah, I know, but you haven't taken away your garbage, and you haven't finished that window. Oh, bro, it's going to be done in an hour. Great. I'll come back tomorrow. Oh, that's not. They're going to be like, that's not fair, man. That ain't right. No, it's not right that you had me show up. Listen, he with the gold makes the rules. You don't back down. You're always right. You're the one stroking the check. He knew it was supposed to be done right now. He knew not to call you, and next time he'll know better if you hold back $500. You have to let them know that you're a professional and you're vicious. I don't care about your problems. You hold $500 back, because if he doesn't show up, you have to pay $500 to somebody else to clean that up. So never, never let them get ahead of you. You've sold the property. You've built a good relationship with a hard money lender, right? I want to mention one more thing about hard money lenders. Don't ever lie to your hard money lender, all right? Don't not answer his calls. If you don't have his $600, don't spin him. Don't give him an excuse. Be honest with him. Tell him what's going on. That's really crucial. If this guy trusts you, he will lend you money on a handshake. I've had guys that have literally lent me $500,000, $1 million. They've known me 6 months to a year. I've had hard money lenders cut checks for $100,000 on a piece of property they never even saw because they 100% trusted me, because I'd never lied to them. I always paid them on time. I don't mean like it's due on the 5th and you're paying them by the 8th. I mean on time, like it's due on the 5th and you're paying them by the 3rd or the 2nd. You need to build up a rapport with these guys, a trust, a relationship. You need to be on time. You need to be a professional. Don't spin them. You need these guys. These guys will make or break you. Don't ever rely on just one hard money lender also. You always want to have at least 2 or 3. If you're flipping 3 property, I can't tell you how many times I went to go call a guy and needed $100,000 to buy a piece of property. And he was like, yeah, man, I don't have it. Guy has a $2 million credit line. He can't get $100,000 because he's also working with other investors. So you need to be able to turn to other people. You always need to be working with at least 2 or 3 of these guys, maybe more. That's pretty much it. If you can start flipping 4 properties at a time, you can essentially quit your job and just flip properties. But it's not glamorous. You're a glorified construction worker. That's what you end up being. And you're an accountant. You got to save your receipts. It's not what you see on TV. It may become that, but even that, it's way glorified. They don't explain accounting principles and they don't get into all that. That's not fun. Nobody wants to hear about that. Nobody wants to hear about how you're going to have to learn QuickBooks. I mean, you're going to learn some stuff. You don't want to get to the end of the year when you got to file taxes and then start trying to put the whole thing together, figure out what went to this property, what went to this property, what went to this property. That's a problem. You have to be doing that all the time. You always have to be keeping the books all the time. So you've got to be organized. Or even worse, you flip 4 or 5 properties in a year, maybe 10, and you just don't even claim taxes. I always love that. I always love the guys that were flipping properties for 3 or 4 years, and I then found out that they hadn't claimed taxes. You know what happens? Your name is all over a bunch of 1098s and 1099s. Eventually, it catches up. One day you go to a closing, and you're supposed to get a check for $40,000 or $30,000, and there's an IRS lien placed against you, and the title company won't give you the money. I'm sorry, you don't get your $30,000. If you're flipping 4 properties at a time and you suddenly don't get a $30,000 check, you're probably going under. That's going to be a major problem. File your taxes, build a relationship with your hard money lender, always be selling your properties, always have a stack of business cards, always have a sign in the front yard, always get an appraisal, always be selling the properties, always be looking at other properties. And you should be all right. If you like the video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, listen for the bell, and when you get notified, watch the new videos. Also, share the video to as many people as you possibly can, all right? I mean, don't be a jerk. Help me out. Send it to 5 people. Ask them to send it to 5 people. The other thing is leave a comment for the algorithm. And I have another channel. It's called Cox Pop Art, and that's where I sell all of my paintings. So if you're interested in buying any of my paintings, you can go to Cox Pop Art. That's one of my paintings. Don't send me anything. It's already sold. I just have to build a box and ship it. See ya.